I have the really, really good pleasure this morning of having Josie Williams, the Executive Director for the Greensboro Housing Coalition agency. We are the agency where the city will call us to be boots on the ground in the midst of a housing crisis. So you can imagine since the pandemic, we've been very busy. And we also do community engagement to do equitable changes within vulnerable populations and neighborhoods. So talk about the instance of homelessness in Greensboro, where you live, and maybe to add some humanity to that whole notion of people without shelter.
Well, I'll first start and preference my statements by stating that I have my own personal experience with homelessness, so my relatability to the population and the plight of the folks that are experiencing homelessness is very close to me, so it motivates me to do the work. And in Greensboro, we have a high rate of homelessness, and even currently right now, that rate steadily increases because we know the pandemic has complicated the conditions of housing even more so. So we have probably, I can tell you in my pipeline for just my agency alone, we have 3,000 people at risk of eviction and homelessness right today.
And that gives me chill bumps to know that people won't have shelter. So you talked about your story. Are you comfortable talking about your story being
now
homeless?
I am.
Yeah, I'll ask you before I
no, it's
put
fine.
it all out there. But, I mean, what was it like? Where did you find shelter? And then how did you cope with not having a home?
My car was my shelter. I never found shelter the whole time I was homeless. And it was in homelessness that I learned about how systems perpetuate the cycle of homelessness. When I tried to find shelter, I learned that shelters have time limits. So if you're not in there by a certain time, you can't get in. So for me, my car was my livelihood to get back and forth to any odd job or any job I could find. I always had a great skill set, but never could find full-time work that paid enough. And so what would happen, I would go to the shelters, and I could not make it in on time because I was working all day. So if you're not in by a certain time in the evening, you can't get in. So that just left me to stop trying to even get into a shelter. So I just stayed in my car every day. And I would go to friends' house, and no one knew. And so I would go to my friend's house and say, hey, it's pouring all night. Could I take a shower? I can't get home. I'm just really feeling kind of out of it. And it was like, girl, get it together and come on in here and take a shower. So they didn't know my clothes were in the trunk. So I would go to the door, tell them the story. I would go in, take a shower, and I was like, I'm off to work. And I would put my clothes on and go every day, dress up with my little clothes that I had that were clean, and go look for jobs.
How clever.
Yeah.
To approach it that way. But what was the turnaround? Are you sheltered now?
I am.
Yes.
Much well off, married and happy now. I was single with my daughter, and my mother, I gave my daughter temporarily to my mom so she could help take care of my daughter. And now I'm stable, and so now my goal is to help others become stable and be self-sufficient and housing secure.
So then how is that working? How are you doing?
It's difficult.
To impact people?
It's very difficult. It's very challenging. There are some rewarding stories that I could share, but I think the most difficult challenge that I'm seeing right now in our housing environment, one, the lack of affordable housing is so wide and vast, and the majority of the housing that's needed the most is basically homes that are within a rental category of between $400 to $650, and that's a good day. But what we see that is being developed are homes that are out of reach, and of course, home ownership and purchasing right now, it's even another tumultuous environment that's happening.
So here at the conference, and who are you partnering with, and then what is the impact for you?
I've met some new partners, or new potential partners, made some new connections. Even the panel that I was on this morning, I feel so much more energized because I'm meeting people that are like-minded and understand in order to address the inequities that I'm describing. We cannot do that in silo. We have to collectively work together across sectors, and we have to look at root causes. When I mention understanding those systems perpetuate homelessness and other
other social drivers of health, like housing, the air we breathe, where we work, live, and play. We can't address systemic issues in a siloed vacuum. We have to work collaboratively. So I've met folks with the Institute, of course, and then some other folks that we're going to be working with coming up soon in High Point, which is my sister city. And I don't think to be heard to be heard here and be on this panel and to have so many people come up to me interested in saying, hey, we need to get together, that is so motivating and inspiring. And I'm just excited to kind of leverage some resources across some different sectors.
Well, good luck with your good work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Josie Williams is the Executive Director for the Greensboro Housing Coalition. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, and we're going to send it back to you at WNCU.